Hi, and welcome to my channel. Or if you're a returning subscriber, hi again. It's so nice to see you back here for another video. My name's Tess Lark, and today I'm going to show you how you can use epoxy resin, alcohol ink, and gold leaf to create a really stunning 3D resin bloom. As always, I'll have all of the materials that I used to make this project linked in the description down below. And don't forget to subscribe. I do post weekly content, and I'm working hard to grow this channel. I'd love to have you as part of the team. And let's just hop into today's video. To start this project, I went ahead and I pre-mixed 100 milliliters of clear resin. This mold holds about 80 milliliters of resin, but because I am going to be sectioning off some of my resin to add some white alcohol ink to, I went ahead and mixed up just a little bit more than I thought I would need. My next step will be to pour roughly 20 milliliters into a separate cup so I can mix in some of my alcohol ink for later use. And today I'm using the white alcohol ink. It's called Blanco Blanco, and it's by Pinata Colors. And once again, I will have all the materials that I use listed in the description down below. So I'm giving that a good shake, and then I'm just going to add a few drops of that to my 20 milliliters of clear resin. After I've added my alcohol ink to my resin, I'll take a clean popsicle stick and begin to mix that alcohol ink into the resin, making sure that it's really thoroughly incorporated by scraping both the sides and the bottom of the cup as I go. And a good way to check how pigmented your resin is to check and see how it looks on the bottom of your popsicle stick, and then you can adjust accordingly. It's always better to put in less pigment than you think you'll need, and to keep the ratios about 90% resin to 10% pigment, or you may have some problems when it comes to curing. Now that my pigment is thoroughly mixed into my resin, I'm going to set it into a sandwich bag that I'll be using as a piping bag. So in order to transfer this over, I'm going to take a clean cup and a clean sandwich baggie, and then I'm going to open up that sandwich bag inside the cup. And then after a quick hit with the heat gun to pop any bubbles that are forming in my white resin, I will carefully pour all of that white resin into my open sandwich bag. And just a quick reminder that if you are liking this video so far and you're getting some value out of it, don't forget to boop that like button. It not only helps out my channel a whole lot, but it also lets me know that I'm making content that you guys want to see from me. I'm also going to use my popsicle stick to scrape the sides and the bottom of this cup and try to make sure I get as much of that white resin out as I possibly can. And then I'll remove the sandwich bag from my other clean cup, sort of get all of that resin to one side of the bag, and then I will go ahead and close this up and set it off to the side to use it a little bit later in this project. After I've got my bag of white resin secured and set off to the side, it's going to be time to make the centers of my flowers. And to do this today, I'm using some gold leaf. So I've got a very small piece of gold leaf here, and I'm just using my fingers to crush that up into some smaller pieces. I've also got some other step-by-step 3D bloom epoxy resin tutorials here, where I use either glitter for the center of the flower or no center at all. I just use the lines in the flower itself to create a center. So I'll make sure to list a couple of those in the description as well if you want to watch those when you're done with this video. But once I have my gold leaf broken up into small enough pieces, I'm going to just drip a little bit of my resin off of a popsicle stick into my gold leaf. And I'm doing this because I don't want there to be too much resin in the gold leaf. I want it to form a bit of a paste. And I want it to be a paste so that it stays in the center of the flower and it doesn't sort of leach out and get gold all over the flower. So as you can see here, it's pretty much sticking to the end of my popsicle stick, which is exactly what we want, and it's ready to use. So we'll set this off to the side for now, and our next step will be to open our piping bag. So I'm going to use a pair of scissors and cut a very small hole in the tip of that piping bag. You want it to be big enough that you get a good flow of resin, but not so big that it comes out too quickly to control. Now that my piping bag's open, I'm going to just set that to the side on a paper towel because it's going to start leaching out a little bit and I don't want it to get all over my desk. My next step will be to fill my mold with the remainder of that clear resin, leaving just a little bit of space because I will be adding a little bit of resin in the form of that white resin. So filling it up for the most part, but just keeping an eye on those sides to make sure that I'm not going to completely overfill the mold. And I do speed my footage up quite a bit just to save some time, but it's important to move slowly when you're working with resin as it is quite viscous and it takes a while for it to level out and kind of end up where it's going to be. But after I've filled my mold, I'll use my heat gun to pop any bubbles that may be forming on the surface of the mold before moving on to the next step. Once I've popped all of the bubbles that I can see forming in my resin, it's going to be time to start layering in my colors. And the colors that I'll be using today are Alcohol Inks by Pinata Colors and Let's Resin. So Pinata Colors, I'm using their Passion Purple and their Baja Blue, and the Red Magenta from Let's Resin. I'm going to start by making the center of my flower with that gold leaf mixed with resin, using 2 popsicle sticks to sort of push that down into the center of my mold. And I'm kind of breaking that up a little bit because I do want it to take up just a little bit more space. Next, I'm going to begin to layer in my colors, starting with the magenta red from Let's Resin. And this one's sputtering a little bit, but it's okay. It's really not going to matter in the finished product. I really love this technique for making 3D resin blooms. I find it to be extremely beginner friendly and also really easy to get some stunning results. In the past, I have colored my resin and then made some concentric circles, but sometimes you end up getting little blobs from where the resin starts and ends in your circles. But with this, you don't get any blobs, and I find that to be really satisfying personally. So I really think that you should try this technique, especially if you've been struggling making some 3D epoxy blooms. After adding my magenta red, I went in and added some of my Baja Blue, and then to that I just added a little bit of that Passion Purple to fill out some of that negative space, but as you can see, the alcohol ink does spread quite a bit. Next, I'm going to take that bag of white resin and create a spiral in the mold, starting from the center right around that gold leaf, and then moving right along the outside edge of the mold. After I've piped that white resin in just to the edge of the mold, I'm going to take a clean popsicle stick and I'll begin to draw those lines into the center, creating a petal pattern. And when I'm dragging my popsicle stick through the resin, I'm dragging it pretty deep, but not so deep that I can feel the other side of the mold. You don't need to go all the way through, and you definitely don't want to scratch your mold. Now that I've taken my petals in one way, I'm actually going to take them back in the other opposite direction. So in the middle of each one of those petals, I'm just pulling that line from the inside to the outside. Once I'm happy with how my flower is looking, I'm going to go ahead and hit it one more time with my heat gun to pop any bubbles and to start to bloom those colors together, and then I will let this cure completely before demolding it, so I'll leave it for about 24 hours. Okay, and so I'm back, and I let my piece set up overnight, and we're gonna quickly just pull it out of the mold and see how it turned out. And my hair is doing its own thing today. It's very, very big and unruly, but I'm pretty sure Dolly Parton once said, the taller the hair, the closer to God. So we're gonna go with it. Anyway, I let this piece set up overnight. It's completely cured, nice and solid. And it is looking so pretty from the back and also pretty from what I can see through the front. So I'm super excited to pull this out of the mold and see how it turned out. Oh my gosh, you guys, look at this one. Wow, this is gorgeous. So it has so much depth and dimension in it, and the colors really blended out in this really beautiful way. There's so much movement. I'm definitely going to use this technique to make a set of coasters. Let me know if you guys want to see a video of that in the comments down below. But I will make sure to take some pictures of this in the natural light so you can see it a little bit better, because she's stunning. As always, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for spending part of your day with me, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video. And if you did make it all the way to the end of the video, leave me some sort of blue or purple emoji just so that I know that you made it. Also, I'd love to know any content ideas or project ideas that you guys have for me. Somebody recently left a comment saying that they wanted to see a multicolored flower, and that inspired a couple different flowers that I've tried lately, and I'm really happy with the results of both of them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!